Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ball is Round. I'm Hady Raphael, and tonight on the show, Canada soccer caught red-handed, Canadian women's national team fight and get a big win against France, and CF Montreal already has 1 foot out of the League's Cup. That and a lot more on episode 188 of The Ball is Round. And I'm joined today by my good friends Eve Powell, Elias and Andy Coronado. Hey guys, how are you, everybody?
I'm still recovering from today's match. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Honestly, I'm so happy after the week that we've had. I think we deserved, as Canadian fans, Canadian soccer fans, we deserve a bit of happiness because honestly, I was thinking about this pod. I was like, this is not gonna be fun.
No.
But you know what? They made it fun. Andy, second podcast in a row.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
Feeling good, excited. Excited. Honestly, it was a much better Sunday than last week when we were coming off a heavy loss. So good wins for the Canada women's national team, and we'll talk about the CF Montreal stuff too.
Yes, unfortunately, we have to.
Yes.
We will talk about them. Elias, it was your birthday, so happy birthday, man!
Happy belated.
The
Happy
national
birthday.
team saw what CF Montreal left for me and said, "No, it's okay, we got you." So all things considered, a fairly good birthday week because, I haven't jumped out of my seat for a goal in a long time. So
it's been a while, yeah. It's been a while, guys. We're gonna talk about the not so good stuff, of course, and then we'll talk about good stuff too. So, of course, this is gonna be a packed episode again because of all the news related to the women's national team and of course the CF Montreal first game of the League's Cup. So let's start first about the big news and exactly what happened this week. So for people that were living on the rock, what happened? Canada Soccer, like members of the Canadian women's national team staff, were caught red-handed trying to fly a drone over the training session of the New Zealand national team practice. This was bad. Just because they were caught, it was very, very bad. So at that point, of course, the Paris officials made it public, and that's normal because it's the Olympics. And Beth Priestman decided to step out of that first game, saying, "You know what? I'm just gonna take a step back and just let the girls do the talk on the pitch." And at the same time, of course, because of public pressure, what happened is the Canadian Canada Soccer, first of all, then the CIO, so the International Olympic Committee, and FIFA opened also opened an investigation to see exactly what's going on. And there are a lot of rumors regarding the investigations. We know our one of our very, very well-known journalists, Rick West, had said that this has been going on since 2018, and it was a normal practice, not only for the women's national team, but also for the men's national team. Just to make it short, of course, at the end, for now, Beth Priestman and two members of the staff, I don't have their name, Lombardi, I think the first one, and Mander, the second one, were banned from all soccer activities for a year. and of course fired. That's completely normal. But also, the Canadian women's national team has a penalty of 6 points in the Olympic Games in Paris 2024. This was made public a couple of days ago after the win of Canada against New Zealand 2-1. So of course, having minus 6 points for Canada made the task that much more difficult. So they would need to win the three games in order to go through, or to as maybe the second place team, or the one of the best third place teams, depending on the results of everybody else. They won the first game against New Zealand. We'll talk a bit later about the second game that they won also against France 2-1. And they have the next game against Colombia on Wednesday.
Sorry. Yeah,
Wednesday. Tuesday is
I don't know what day of the week it is.
So on Wednesday, and we'll be able to know what's going on the pitch for the Canadian women's national team. But first of all, I want to hear your reactions about everything that has happened. I tried to make it as short as possible. Eve,
yeah,
your reaction.
It's so disappointing. I will also try to keep it briefish. So obviously, like right now, Beth Priestman is still like the title of. She still retains her title of coach, even though she's been suspended from all footballing activities for a year. So I can only imagine it must be a matter of time before the hammer comes down. The new guy who came in charge, Kevin Blue, he must just be like, what the hell have I walked into?
What did I do? What did I do
to deserve this? Really, really, really disappointing. And as more and more information, or I guess we should probably call them allegations by rights, because there's no proof aside from the one incident. As more and more allegations come out of kind of a historical culture, I guess, of using drones to take a look at other teams' tactics and practices. Although this isn't necessarily like, Canada Soccer isn't the only organization to engage in this behavior. If you look it up, you'll see any number of clubs or national teams have also tried, and sometimes been successful, sometimes been caught at the same activity. But obviously, the rock has kind of been lifted up, and we're seeing what's underneath it, and it's really, really ugly. Once again, I think we had a lot of suspicion about Canada Soccer over the last few years as more and more really inappropriate, really, really unethical, really just straight up wrong behavior has been exposed, in the public eye. And I feel so badly for the players of the women's national team who worked so hard and who, show up for this team no matter what sort of mistreatment they're getting, no matter what inequality they're facing. And the fact that they are, at the end of the day, the ones truly bearing the brunt of the punishment with the 6-point deduction at the Olympics. Although I understand why it was given, it just hurts after all the fight they've put in, particularly kind of in the last 2 years, to bring our program to more acceptable standards.
Interesting. A lot to say about this, but I want to hear the first reactions of each one of you before we start to really go in depth in everything that has happened. Elias, your 2 cents on this, because I don't know. I will give my comments a bit later, but go ahead.
Yeah, when I first heard about it, obviously it's impossible not to feel disappointed, right? When you find out all everything that's happening, and immediately my
don't make that positive. You can't make that positive.
Oh,
You're not allowed.
I'm not. There's believe me. There's enough positivity in other parts of the show that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
My first thought immediately was, these players can't catch a fucking break. That's the first thing. Because when you look at the World Cup and performances aside, they had 101 things going on at the same time off the field again. And at some point, this team is too good to have every single tournament be derailed by off-field stuff that is completely out of their control. It's not their fault. It's not like, there's infighting amongst the team or there's discord in the dressing room or, the off-field stuff is stuff they have to sort out. No, it's happening to them. Right? So at what point are they finally going to get a tournament where nothing goes wrong and they can just play? Because if this is the kind of team and the kind of football we see from a group that is constantly under like just pure stress in every single aspect of their camp and of their tournament, then I'd love to see what happens when they finally have some peace, because that would be so fun to watch. If that happens, God knows, right? I'll believe it when I see it. But my first and immediate thought was these players can't be going through this shit again. Because honestly, based on the statement that Prieston put out and that everything, we'll get to that later, something tells me that this was done with very little regard to how the players would react if shit hits the fan. Right? Because when you look at it and you look at all the people that have come out and talked about cheating and drones and spies and all this stuff, the practical effects for the coaches may be there, but for the players, it really doesn't amount to much. Right? For the players themselves, in the grand scheme of the whole 90 minutes, it doesn't change the way that they're on the field. It may slightly alter tactics and may win you some battles here and there, which is obviously super important. But sacrificing the entire well-being of your tournament and putting your squad in the position that they were put in is beyond unacceptable. So I mean, there's been a lot of really, I feel like there's been a lot of over dramatization in terms of, kick them out of the tournament and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it's not the player's fault. And when you look at the New Zealand game, you cannot tell me with a straight face that they benefited from some kind of information, right? New Zealand played well, Canada played well, but this is not a team that was spying and had the in on every single thing tactically. So they got, in my view, a punishment that is more than enough, borderline harsh, and that's the last I want to hear from it, honestly, until it starts to roll. For the rest of the tournament, I don't want to hear about it.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll talk about everything a bit later. Andy, your raw thoughts about this whole situation.
Well, when I'm hearing Elias talk about it, it sounds like we're talking about CF Montreal again and the fact that they can't catch a break with anything. Anyways, but the thing is, my first reaction was obviously like, oh shit. Well, you know what's happening right now, and then it just felt like a domino effect for the rest of the week, just a domino effect. And then this happened, and then it went on to the Canada men's national team, and that happened, and it was way back then. So my reaction was like, what is gonna happen? Like, what is, how deep does this go? Because from what we started, it was one practice that they did it, and then it was like, oh no, it's a common practice. Oh no, it's a whole system. Oh no, it goes back to that. So it's like, how deep and how many heads are gonna roll? And absolutely, I know we're gonna get a little bit deeper into it, but what Elias is saying is like, and a little bit what Eva is saying is, how does this impact the players? At the end of the day, what we want to watch is a soccer game, a competitive, fair soccer game, right? That's what we want to watch. We don't want to watch anybody having the advantage. My first reaction was, damn, this sucks. Second was like, well, this happens in every sport around the world. Not making it a positive thing. It does happen, but it still sucks to be the one that's caught, right? Because I think we can all agree it's happened in the past. It might happen it probably will happen in the future, but it happened to Canada now, and that sucks. So that was my initial reaction to what happened.
Yeah, I was a bit more drastic, to be honest, guys. I'm disgusted. I'm really disgusted. These are not the values that Canada wants to show. Like, we're always represented like, a nice country with nice folks, with very, close people that welcome everybody, that are, like really not simple in the wrong way, but simple as in, we're humans, human touch. We're welcoming. We're great. We try to do as much as we can with whatever we have, and this is not what we showed. The values that represents Canada were completely tarnished, like completely tarnished. And for me, it's going to be very harsh what I'm about to say, because I understand there's a lot of people involved, and I understand it's maybe a couple of them or 3 or 4 of them that were the culprits. But at the end of the day, a team is a team, and for me, Canada should have been excluded from the Olympic Games. As simple as that. Just to say that, guys, this is not something that we accept at the Olympics. That's one of the greatest, if not, it is the greatest event in the history of mankind, the Olympics. It's as simple as that. All not only sports, everything together. And this is not what you want to represent. This is not what you want to see. So you have to make an example out of those, like what you did for all the people that were, that used doping pills or whatever it is. You have to make an example out of those that were caught red-handed. As you said, Andy, I agree with you that, it sucks because it's Canada. But at the end of the day,
cheating is cheating.
Cheating is cheating. And you know what? We know a lot of these players on the team. We've been to press conferences. We know them. We talk to them. We've had some guests here, and yes, we know them. They're amazing. Yes, but you know what? This is a team sports. When the team does something bad, the team, unfortunately, will have to answer to that. Now, it's been fun hearing about, and I want to, maybe transition with that, hearing about this from the player's mouth when they were answered and they gave their own opinion on the matter. We saw Vanessa Gilles saying stuff, Vivian saying stuff, also saying that they cry. They've been crying for a couple of days. That they're not the one to blame. We saw Christine Sinclair and Stéphanie Labbé that are retired right now that said that, you know what, guys, we've never seen footage of another a competitor training. Like, we've never seen any kind of footage in our training. So we saw all that, and I completely agree. And you know what? Those girls fought so hard to be here. Don't forget that, those 18 Olympians, they tried their best to be in that final roster, and it sucks. But at the end of the day, a team is a team. But what did you think about the allegations and the, whatever the players have said, saying that they haven't been involved? And also we heard Evelyne Vian saying it's not all members of the staff that did that. And, the staff that remained were really great and have been working their ass off in the past couple of days to make that happen, to prepare us for games. What do you think about that? When you hear that, Elias, how can you have so much difference in a staff with some cheating and the rest not knowing about it?
My guess that's probably the easiest way to get away with it is you kind of compartmentalize the cheating, because that way there's fewer people involved, and also some people have plausible deniability, right? So even those that were maybe aware of it, that weren't actively acting on it, so maybe a select group of people that would get the footage, analyze it, and then figure out, maybe they would work training around, or maybe they would work their instructions around that knowledge that they get. Again, it's impossible to tell because it's such an ambiguous thing, because you don't know what they filmed during training, you don't know what they extrapolate from it, you don't know, and if these players didn't see anything, where they just was reflected in the training and was reflected in the tactics that they were instructed on. So even if they weren't given those, even if they didn't see with their own eyes, maybe the information extrapolated still made its way onto the field. That being said, there's still so little we know about what kind of advantage that they got, that
But one sec, Elias. Okay, you are the one that cheated, right? That got those footage, right?
Yeah.
And you see Beth Priestman that as if we agree with what she said and with her allegation saying that she didn't know anything, she's setting up the team, okay? And let's say she's setting up the team, thinking that the team is the opposing team is going to play in a 4-3-3, okay? You have got the footage, and you're like, no, they're going to play it as a 4-4-2. You don't say anything to Beth Priestman. You go to Beth Priestman and you say, you know what? No, let's set it up differently just because I have a gut feeling. Like, come on, man.
At no point am I saying that Beth Priestman wasn't aware of this. In fact, it's way more likely that she was fully aware of it. Same thing that goes with the men's team and stuff like that, right? The head coach, at the end of the buck stops with them, and they should be fully aware of everything going on with their staff, with the club, with their camp. So it's extremely unlikely that she wasn't aware of it. And even if she wasn't, how dissfunctional is your camp that you can have people actively cheating and you're not aware of it? So either way, you look terrible, and you probably should end up being fired.
Yeah, that's the worst of it.
Exactly. So even if the player, but that kind of builds into my point, because even if the players didn't see it, that doesn't mean that it didn't make its way onto the field in some capacity. So again, why I find that was a bit harsh is because the 6 points and everything was a bit harsh was because of the fact that, look, at the end of the day, we don't know what made it onto the field. And we don't know, and we will never know, because realistically, there's no way anyone's ever going to find that footage because it's probably destroyed or whatever, XYZ. So, yeah.
I think it also does create a toxic environment. I mean, imagine, guys, that we've all worked at a we all were maybe at some point worked at a corporate job, and imagine that our bosses or people that we never talked to did some kind of crime. And they're all saying we didn't do it, and and then they want to know us. Did you guys know? Have you guys were aware of it? No, I was just doing my job. Same with the players, right? They're just saying, we're just doing our job. We never knew. We didn't know. I was just focused. I even heard interviews of former players that are saying, oh no, I never knew. But you can hear it in their voice that they're like, I didn't know, but maybe somebody did. So all of a sudden, there's a lot of finger pointing going on, and now nobody trusts each other as to who did it. And that's again a toxic environment, and it's I don't know how to. Maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I don't know how we move from here, from where we go from here.
Yeah.
If we win, if we lose, we'll talk about that. I'm sorry, but
no,
yeah.
it's okay. It's okay.
But, that's my question.
If you heard the players talk about their feelings and how they feel about this whole situation, how do you rally after that, around that, how do you cope with that, and how do you get over that? What do you do? If you were a player, what would you have done?
I mean, thankfully, they're not going through this alone, in isolation, right? They're all together in camp, so hopefully they can all lean on each other, because they're all going through the exact same struggle right now with this, and obviously all of their accomplishments historically being called into question now on top of it. But definitely, I think really you just have to look at your intrinsic motivations. You have to say, it's not necessarily Canada Soccer I'm here to represent. It's more the country of Canada, because evidently we are getting inklings out there that the problem is larger than just this iteration of coaching in the women's national team. So, I kind of think it is a little bit like Vanessa Gilles had said, that they all just kind of came together, and it's their pride to prove people wrong, because it's what these players have done time and time again, showing up and overcoming the odds. To prove the naysayers, I think the people who are going to say, they had an unfair advantage. I think the outsiders, they had an unfair advantage. People saying that perhaps, or people saying, people questioning whether or not the players themselves deserve to be there, even though,
me.
Exactly, like you.
Yeah, they're trying to prove Buddy wrong. That's what I'm doing.
There you go. And that's a challenge. So no, I mean, I think they just have to come together and do it for each other. I think we've talked a lot about the amount of leadership in that locker room from a player perspective. So I think, we talked about the squad selection and stuff like that, but when I look at it now, I'm like, okay, there's a good group there that can rally together and really do this for each other and not necessarily the organization.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the way they reacted, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Andy, Kevin Blue, you're Kevin Blue right now. You're the president of Canada Soccer. What do you do? What are your next
No.
decisions?
Look, I try to turn every rock possible, and I try to ask, just make sure I gather as much information as I can. This is how in general I make my decisions, right? I try to gather as many facts as possible from everything that's happened, everything that I can prove that is true, and make a decision based on that. I know that he's already made a few decisions based on the information he's gone. The way he explained his wording, I don't have it on top of my head, but it was like he said it a few times that the reason why he suspended the head coach, was because of certain information he got. And now, so at this point, like I said, I'm turning every rock, which I think it is based on what we're hearing is what he's doing. He's looking at the Canada men's and national team since John Herdman days and all that. So that's what I would do. I would just make sure that I have the proper facts. I've asked everybody, no matter how far, and not just me, just whoever works around me, make sure that I ask everyone what was their view on that, what if they ever heard on it, investigate all I can. And based on that, take a decision. But also think about the future, because this is going to have a big impact on the future of Canada soccer in general. I mean, in every competition from now on, the World Cup 2026, everything that's coming up, any kind of competition, they're always going to say, oh, but we have to be careful with Canada.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's the truth. I'm sorry, it's the truth. It's like it would be the same thing if it was my country, if it was Peru, if we were the ones known for doping, whatever.
Yeah. But you know what? That would be, I think, the first time in soccer that someone says anything about us, positive or negative. So that's a first.
We made headlines.
We have Robbie saying Canada soccer is like that alligator that hovers, and as soon as we the fans put our toe in the water, it attacks. It feels that way, right, Elias? When we have a feeling that whatever Canada soccer does, it's usually not. It's not broadcasted. It's not known until the fans make it known in a way and react to it. It's, I don't know. It feels that we are helping Canada soccer evolve. We saw it with Nick Bontis, with everything that happened, that all the fans, rallied around the women's national team to have, everything, unfold in a way. Do you feel that the fans have a role to play in this whole issue?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it helping. That's not the word I would use. More forcing, and dragging people by the scruff of their neck to go and testify. But I think ultimately, fans absolutely have a say and have contributed, because at the end of the day, you don't play games behind closed doors. Right. Yes, the athletics and the sporting side of it is very important, but at the end of the day, sports are at their core entertainment, and you do it for fans, you do it for the people that follow the club, you do it for the people that follow your national team, you do it for people that enjoy the sport. And if they are in a position where every few weeks, let alone months, there's something new that's caused them to doubt whether they should continue to follow your teams, you have to look inwards, right? It's not always good to bow to mob rule, and sometimes people just say dumb things and go, okay, that's unreasonable, that's not how you run a team. But when it happens this often, you're forced to look inward. And I think the fact that Canadian soccer fans have been so vocal and so consistently vocal about their displeasure, and not just complaining on social media, but actually taking matters into their own hands and writing letters and making it known more than just in the comment section, I think is probably a testament to why I'm not worried about the state of soccer in Canada, and why them faltering at national tournaments, or them or Canada only having like a handful of games at the World Cup, why I'm not worried about the future of the sport, because at the end of the day, the people that are passionate about soccer are obscenely passionate about soccer, and that's contagious. Even if you don't create new super fans every day, you will create new casual fans, and games like this that we're going to talk about create new casual fans. And the next 2 weeks, if Canada ends up qualifying for the knockout round and going to the knockout round, and even God forbid winning winning the quarterfinal, people will be paying attention, and Canada's going to draw crazy numbers because of the fact that they were at -3 points last week and now they're in the quarterfinals. So I think this is almost like, it feels like a thank you to Canadian soccer fans, and in turn you have to give your support to these players that are doing all this.
And that's a good transition. Thanks, Elias, for you, Eve. -6. Unfair punishment. We know that Canada Soccer and the Canadian Olympic Committee are looking into an appeal to see if it's possible to reduce that penalty. But is it fair for you, a -6?
I think it's a statement. It's really hard to judge it as fair or unfair because we're in a little bit of unprecedented territory here with this situation arising, at the Olympics. Fair or unfair, I find it really hard because I find it fair on the organization. I find it unfair on the players. Am I allowed to split my vote?
No, you're not. I'm going to say no.
This is a democracy. I declare. No, that's the thing. I find it really harsh on the players, because of the myriad reasons I listed previously. But I find it's a really strong statement to discourage other teams, whether that's a club team or whether that's a national team, from engaging in the behavior in the future. Obviously, as well, there was a heavy financial sanction that came along with it.
300,000. Do you think we're gonna get help from philanthropic people?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there are some drone enthusiasts amongst the philanthropists.
Well, Elias said we're gonna get attention, and that's what I was gonna ask Elias. But is that an attention that we want? Is that money that we
all
want?
publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, I don't know if
the cheaters make it. The cheaters did go through whatever.
It's gonna get clicks. It's gonna get clicks. It's gonna get subscribers. But is that what we want? Or
no? But honestly, we're laughing about this. But we shouldn't be laughing
funny.
because it's really not funny.
I think it's like a grim humor. To be clear,
it is.
We're not like, this is not something you make light of. But to circle back and answer your question, I think taking the players themselves out of the equation, I think it's fair.
Yeah, and you know what? I love Eve's mom sent as opinion. Frankly, I think the Canadian team is lucky they weren't kicked out of the Olympics, and that's exactly my point of view too. Yes, it's harsh, -6, but you know what? At least you have a chance of, first of all, staying in Olympics, but also qualifying to the next round. But you know what? You have to be flawless. You have to.
What happens in every other sport in the Olympics? What happens if that happens in every other sport in the Olympics? The athlete cheats, the team cheats. What happens? Do they stay? Do they still get a chance to compete?
Well, it depends on the offense, right? Because if
it's something that
you're doping, then you're just your medal
doping and what Canada did are not the same thing.
No, I know, but it's like the most common offense that I can think of.
Yes, it's still absolute cheating, but you can't paint with.
And it's also the individual athlete typically who's the person engaged in the doping versus the broader.
Oh, it depends because there's coaches that are involved in that, right? Every it's not a sole thing. So that's my question is, like, in every other sport in the Olympics, winter, summer, whatever Olympics, if an athlete cheats, the word cheat can be very big, right? Mm-hmm. What happens to that team? Even in Tour de France, right? So why?
Yeah, these are all individual sports, though.
Yeah,
but I mean, again, they're teams per se, right? They're teams, like with coaches and all that. That's where I'm going on.
So Elias, in your opinion, like individual sports are different than team sports in a way. Like you can punish people that do an individual sport easier than team sports.
I think so. I think both should be punished, but I don't think every single instance of cheating should be punished the same way. For example, doping during an individual sport has far more effect than what Canada was doing with their drones.
Yeah.
Both should be punished, absolutely, but does not mean they should be punished to the same extent.
But you know what? I agree. If you're, let's say, a team of gymnastics or whatever, and you have two of them that are doped, you would exclude them from the games, and the rest, and you would replace them with other teammates, right? So that's usually what happens, and this is what happened now with Canada Soccer. The one that cheated got fired, and the rest is still here with a penalty, which I think is fair, in my opinion. But at least it still gives them the chance to, winning 3 games in this group is not easy. And we'll talk about that a bit later. One last question on this topic for you, Andy. And it's Patrick that says it. No way Beth Priestman comes back from this. Is there a way to redemption for Beth Priestman after everything that has happened? We're not talking about the 2 assistants that are the one allegedly that made that happen, but the head coach. Does she have a way out of this?
I don't think in Canada as a coach as the Canada women's national team, but maybe through clubs. I don't. Maybe through that, but I just think beyond the administration and maybe her colleagues, her assistant coaches, whoever she works with, trusting her, I think she's lost that locker. And any player that ever goes into a locker with her, can she come back from this when maybe we forget about it because we've won so many championships or we've had whatever, right? But not anytime soon. She can't come back unless she. No, I don't. I'm solid. No, she can't come back from this unless she comes again. It's from a long time from now, and she's proven that she does her work properly, I guess. But honestly, we've seen in other sports when people cheat, it is such a mountain to climb for them. Nobody even like appreciates them anymore. They don't have the same results just because probably it's also psychological for them, right? As a person.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you 100%. And you know what? I also feel that, it's good that she said she's going to make herself available for the investigation. So I hope so. So that's a good thing. But I feel that she's going to be the one, even if she didn't cheat, she's going to be the one that's going to suffer the most.
Yeah.
On the long term. Because, and, deservedly so, because, and we talked about it, because she didn't know what her staff members were doing, which is, I think, very bad. So, one last thing, Eve.
Mm-hmm.
The rumors are saying that this has been happening for quite a few years. What needs to be done? You're Kevin Blue. What needs to be done to clean that organization, that Canada Soccer organization? Like, what does he need to do?
Yeah, evidently look into the allegations, and if there's anybody who was part of it who had knowledge and is still working with Canada Soccer, I definitely think that their job should be in jeopardy. Obviously a lot by this time, especially how far back it's going, a lot of the individuals I'm sure have moved on from Canada Soccer. So there's not a lot that you can do, as far as punishment, so to speak. But looking ahead, especially with, the World Cup on the line next year in 2 years for the men's national team. You want to make sure that your organization is beyond reproach. So I think it's all about how they position themselves going forward, as far as, showing as much transparency as possible, really just owning and kind of being willing to turn a page. You're basically going to have to, completely rehabilitate your brand as an organization as well. So I think it's really going to be a lot of just kind of meeting the people where they're at, answering some really difficult questions, and just not letting anything fly, even if that means you have to micromanage a little bit to make sure that everyone is doing their job as they should. So be it for at least the short term. But I think that the repair work is not going to happen overnight. But I think just sharing kind of what's going on, what actions are being taken, at least in the public eye, as long as, there are actions being taken, will help Canadians and Canadian national team fans feel like this is being taken as seriously as it should be.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like you said, we need to make sure that actions are taken to for that not to happen again. And you know what? We've been talking about Canada Soccer as an entity being very dysfunctional. So it's time to show the world that we are able to have a very good federation that really does everything they can to support their players and the sport in the game, the sport in the country. So hopefully we'll see some changes going forward. Moving on, of course, the Canadian national team players have answered in the best of manners by beating France for the first time since 2016. Beating France, in Saint Etienne, in Geoffroy Guichard, 2-1. 2-1. Okay, so let's talk about that game. Interim manager Andy Spence had his starting 11. So in goal, we had Kaylin Sheridan. In the back three, we had Jade Rose, Vanessa Gilles, and Kadisha Buchanan. On the right, we had Ashley Lawrence. On the left, we had Gabby Carl. In the middle of the pitch, Awujo, Simi Awujo, Quinn, and Fleming. And up front, Jordan Heidema and Michelle Prince. When you look at that starting 11, Eve, do you see a certain continuity with what Beth Reason was trying to put in place?
Yeah, I think so. By and large, I wasn't terribly surprised by any of the selections made in the starting 11, especially after kind of they rallied to come from behind against New Zealand in the previous match on Thursday. I think obviously the formation remains very similar to what Bev Priestman's been playing with this team. Of course, having Jessie Fleming in that playmaker role with your tandem of two strikers up top, and of course demanding a lot of your wingbacks for the entirety of the match. So and I'm not surprised. I mean, he's an interim coach, Andy Spence, and so it would be really surprising to see him rock the boat tremendously when the boat has already been rocked pretty aggressively.
Yeah, and no Adriana Leon in the starting 11, so that's also a big change because yes, he didn't really rock the boat, but not having Adriana Leon when with Beth Friesman, she's always a starter. That's already a big change, in my opinion. But yeah, you can't really rock the boat more than that, unfortunately.
No.
Let's talk about the players individually, like we always do, line by line. First of all, Andy, Kaylin Sheridan. She made a great save at one point after I think France was leading 1-0, or was it 1-1? I don't remember. But I think it was they were still leading 1-0. Yeah, they were still leading 1-0. And then point blank, she had to make that save.
1-on-1.
The one in injury time? The one in injury time, sorry?
No, before.
Okay. I wasn't sure which one you were talking about.
I was like, it's over.
Yeah.
I was like, it's over. You don't even have to finish your question, Hady. When I saw that, I was like, it's over.
It was in the 5 meters 50, like inside of the little square that
doesn't make any sense.
A rectangle that it's crazy. What a save!
That was an incredible save, clutch, necessary. I think at that point, the team was starting to get a little bit desperate offensively. That's why we were being more vulnerable in the back, which I've seen a lot. And that was just a save. And I think that at that point of the game can lift any team to be like, holy smokes, let's go. We need to score now because it's France is dangerous, and France was very dangerous. But she made an amazing stop and just necessary because, like I said, 2 seconds before, I was like, we're done. We're done. Like there's what this is like. They're professional soccer players, right? They have an open net, it's a goalie that's halfway there, and then there's so. Anyways, that's I was when I saw that I was like, we gotta go. Let's go score because she just made an amazing stop.
Do you identify this as the turning point of this game? For me, this is the turning point. This save made it happen.
That's it, because again, it was a moment where the team was starting to push and push and push and push. You felt it, you saw it. Every player was just giving it their all, and then at that point, it just becomes okay. We pushed it, and now we just gave up the ball. Now France is coming. They're ready to close this game down, and then she makes this save and says, "We still have a chance. We still have a chance." I don't know how much time. I don't remember how much time was left at that point, but it just felt like it was a very small window that we had left, and just for her to make that save, it just for sure it lifted up the team, and the team said, "Let's go and score," and we saw it. It just lifted the whole team. It turned the game upside down.
Yeah, no.
And honestly, for the French team, for the French teams that they were probably at home, the fans were probably all yelling, ready to go, and they missed that. It must have, shut them down completely, deflated them.
No, for sure.
Right,
for sure.
Similar to what we talked about last week, the miss in front of the goal, right? That deflated the whole stadium. It was the same thing.
That's exactly it. I think she did what she had to do, Kaylin Sheridan. Let's talk about that back three. There's a lot to say about that back three. So Jade Rose, Vanessa Gilles, and Kadisha Buchanan. Eve, it's gonna be your turn now.
Yay.
We've seen the best and the worst of that starting at that back three. Okay,
for sure.
On the first goal,
where were they?
Where were they?
Yeah, I agree with you. The first goal was chaotic, and I kind of expected Canada to be struggling a bit in the first half, as they were, because obviously everything going on outside the pitch, not to mention the momentum that France was bound to have with the home stadium, the home crowd. So yeah, that first goal, absolutely. I think Vanessa Gilles wound up kind of sat down at the end of it, and France was just able to completely weave. I mean, France was able to weave their way through the entire Canadian team to score their goal. So it isn't like the defense is not in a vacuum here for sure, but it was absolutely not a glowing moment for any of them. That being said, the other 89 minutes of the match, well, 89 plus 13, as it were, or 16, I think is what it went to. I think the defense, I quite liked overall the defense performance. I thought Jade Rose was once again incredibly composed against very, very illustrious opposition. Her willingness to kind of carry the ball, and I think her decision-making as to when it was appropriate to carry the ball forward versus trying to pass out or go long. I thought it was very good decision-making. Still really excited for her to go pro since she's still in college. Kadisha Buchanan as well. I thought she had a really interesting battle on the right-hand side of that defense, going shoulder to shoulder with Cascarino a few times. I think she also might have gone in with Elisa de Almeida a few times, and she kept it really clean. Like, she didn't do any risky tackles. She didn't have to, she didn't put her team in jeopardy at all, because there were a couple of yellow cards that came out a little bit early. So it could have been a dangerous game that she was playing, but I thought she did a really good job in shepherding those players wide of the goal most of the time. And finally, Vanessa Gilles. Vanessa, I mean, what do you say?
MVP.
Yeah. She's renowned for her headed goals, but today she scored with her foot.
Did you hear Evelyn Vian talking about Vanessa Gilles at the end of the game? She was asked, she's like, okay, what do you think about that goal? And she answered, I want you guys to do a research. How many goals did she score with her foot? And how many did she score with her left foot? Because she doesn't think that she ever scored with her left foot.
Yeah.
I think it's her first time.
Clutch.
For sure. And, I thought, obviously, I thought it was really important that she was up there. To see a central defender up there, of course, it was deep into injury time. So, Canada was really throwing everything because they had to win, or this was it for them with the points deduction. We had to have the French team had to sub in their substitute goalkeeper, which you never want to see because it was a pretty severe injury by the looks of it to their starting keeper. But the keeper who subbed in continued to play rebounds out into really interesting areas that Canada didn't take advantage of. And I was getting frustrated by the end of the match because the Canadian strikers or whomever was in the box wasn't positioning themselves in a way. Obviously, you don't know exactly where it's going to go, but they weren't necessarily as tight as you would be to see after you've seen a keeper spill the ball a few times. So to see Vanessa Gilles kind of take on that instinct and be willing to take that risk, and I thought it was awesome. She's obviously one of the leaders of this team, and she's definitely one of the stars of this team, and richly deserved goal for her, in my opinion.
That's great. That's a great transition. Thanks, Eve. And that's for you, Elias. It's my assumption that yes, she's maybe not wearing the captain's armband, but in a way, she's the real captain of that team. Do you feel that way too? Because she's the one that goes in front of the media in French and in English. She's the one that talked a lot in the past 3-4 days about exactly what happened. She's the one that's the cover of that team. Whenever someone wants to, she expresses herself very, very well in both languages. She's well spoken, of course, and of course you see the leadership that she brings on the pitch too. Because every time Canada has scored a very, very important goal, Vanessa Gilles was a part of this, either on the first shot, with the header, or with the foot. She's always there. She's always implicated in those great moments since she joined the team, I think, in a few years back. Do you feel she deserves that armband?
I don't know about deserves the armband because, again,
well, you have to take it away from somebody, which seems
I don't
fair.
think Jessie Fleming's done anything to warrant not her having the armband. But at the same time, I get it, because a couple months ago we were talking during the Christine Sinclair goodbye tour. We talked about who is the heir to that crown of the face of the women's team, and also for the most part the face of one of the faces of Canadian soccer. We talked about Jessie Fleming, we talked about Kadisha Buchanan, we talked about even Adriana Leon. Vanessa Gilles, with the way she's handled this tournament, the way she's handled everything, stepping up like this, she's making a great case for being one of those people, if not the face of Canadian women's soccer, right? And for all the reasons you lined out, she reminds me a lot of Carlos Puyol in that way, where with or without the armband,
love the comparison.
She is in every way. She is a warrior. She'll put her body on the line. She's no nonsense, and you could.
And he was the captain, right?
He was the captain, yes, but every single fiber of her being is just pure defensive intensity. And just like Carlos Puyol, sometimes they're the ones who do the offense too. But at the end of the day, Vanessa Gilles is you could not ask for a better player in her role, be it on the field, be it off the field. So I'm so happy that Canada has a representative of the game like her, who's also playing at the top level, who's playing in France, the team who she just beat, but who's also doing it at such a high level and playing alongside, arguably the greatest women's defender of all time in Wendy Renard. So, it's not a bad person to learn from either. But I could not be prouder to have someone like her as the face of the defense, of the face of the national team, as one of the faces of Canadian soccer. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, she deserves all the flowers she's getting and more, for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? First of all, I'm going to share a friend of the pod, George Sanchez, that says perhaps the match with the most emotion of all my years, often Canadian women's soccer. It was that emotional, and just to the reason why I put that tweet is just I want you guys to remember George Sanchez when he came on this show. He told us one thing. He told us that for him, Jesse Fleming is one of the most talented players on the ball he's seen in all his years coaching. For people that don't know, George Sanchez coached the Stingers of Concordia for many, 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 many years. I think 20 plus years. So you know what, guys? Yes, she is the most talented, but in my heart, Vanessa Gil is what you need as a captain. And again, not taking anything away from Jesse Fleming. If I had to choose all over again, I think that when you have the chance right now to have a new coach that's going to come in, it's okay for him to put a new captain. When you're a new coach, you can choose your captain. And for me, Vanessa Gil will be the captain. Talking about the emotions on the pitch, Andy, what did you feel when she scored that goal at the end?
Man, similar to Elias, I was just, I did not yell, but I was just stunned silence. Stunned
Really?
silence in the sense of like, what is happening right now? This is what they needed. This is what this team needs. And when you're talking about someone that needs to be a captain of a team, there's certain players, of the example with Puyol, that doesn't have to be rah, rah, rah to be a captain. They just lead by example. She led by example today. She led by example. A moment when the team needs her, when a team is down because of the past few days and everything, she came clutch. At the dying minutes of the game against one of the best teams in the world in their hometown. Like, there's just so many things going on, and she scores. And she is not a natural shooter or a natural scorer. So the emotions were, this is what they need. This is what they need, and got it. And I love an underdog story, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm a big underdog guy that loves when you come to somebody's home and just, shows it to them. And that's exactly how it felt today. Just that emotion where it's like, nice. They needed that. And I'm sure there was yelling all over Montreal and all over Canada, which is well deserved. But I was just in stunned silence where I was like, wow, cannot believe that just happened. Excellent, just perfect. And you just again saw the players of France get deflated by that. It was incredible.
Yeah, and just to let you know, guys, the story is even a bit more deeper than what you guys think. Vanessa Gil plays with Olympique Lyonnais and scoring a goal in Saint-Etienne, which are the arch rivals of Lyon, has a bit of a meaning too. So that's even more beautiful. Moving on, midfield. We talked a lot about Quinn, how they're what they're able to bring to that team. But at one point, we were ready to remove them from the starting 11, right? Yeah. We thought that Simi Wujo had great potential and was really, really good to deserve a starting spot in the starting 11. And Elias, we saw both of them get on the pitch today, and of course with Jesse Fleming. Let's talk about that midfield. What did you like about the midfield? The midfield, of course, Quinn, Awujo, and Fleming.
First of all, I'm so happy Quinn is back and fit because oh my god, were they missed? Because look, at the end of the day, Simi Awujo has been and is one of the most exciting young talents in this national team system, but there's just something that Quinn brings, that extra degree of class and composure on the ball, that especially in a game where you're going to be suffering and you're not going to be able to enjoy the ball as much until the last half hour when they really did take over. You have to make your possession count, and Quinn is one of those players on the ball who always really sets the tone. And at the end of the day, and the attack still has some concerns, but in the midfield, I felt in the first half they really did well. And this is the first time in a long time that we've seen Canada start with three midfielders. Usually they have so it's a 3-4-3, and they have Fleming, Quinn, and Awujo. And having all three today, I did feel like it was very organized. And I
I
think
felt like
that
it was balanced.
exactly. And without the ball, they didn't allow much. And when you have someone like Grace Gallardo in front of you, who is arguably one of the best midfielders in the world, you do have to be on top of your game. And she got no time on the ball. And that's due in large part to the fact that Quinn is just always in the right spot. And yes, the athleticism is not really there. It's not their strong suit, but the intelligence that they play with and the fact that they still really do complement Jessie Fleming so well does kind of also bring out the best in everyone. I wasn't super thrilled with Simi Wujo's game. I think this is one of the few times that we really did see maybe that lack of inexperience. Again, she's still a college student, right? And Jade Rose, who's a
Crazy.
college student, had a phenomenal, except for the one goal, had a really, really good game, especially when Kadidiani is your
She
assignment.
was amazing. She was amazing, Jade Rose. Yeah.
Especially when Kadidiani is your assignment, who's world class.
Yeah.
Simi Wujo did kind of maybe show her age a little bit more. And I think there was some couple missed passes, there were some couple moments. She always brings the energy, which is always a good counterbalance to when your touch and your technique maybe isn't there on the day. But with the ball, especially if you're trying to make the argument that I belong in the two center midfield formation, with when you're on the ball and you're not being as efficient in big games like this against big opposition, against world-class midfield opposition, this is where it kind of hurts your stock for now, right? Because Simi Wujo is absolutely the midfielder of the future, and Jessie Fleming and Simi Wujo will very likely be the two midfield if they keep this formation in the World Cup in 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But yeah, all in all, without the ball, super organized, and like you've said, super balanced, and I really liked what I saw. And I think if they're playing against bigger opposition, where they're not going to get 55, 60, 65% possession, I do really like the three center midfielder outfit, because I think it did really bring a lot more. The problem is the attack.
That's a good transition. Thank you, Elias. Talking about the attack. Okay, Nichelle Prince, and of course Jordan Heidema, Eve.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about their partnership, their performances, and Elias saying they were a problem? What do you think about that?
I felt a little bit bad for Nichelle Prince because in the first half, which is all that she played, she didn't really get a lot of service to work with, and she kind of seemed to be relegated to running off the shoulders of the French defenders, which didn't necessarily generate a lot of promise for Canada when you're up against Wendy Renard. That's probably why.
And the chance where she was 1-on-1 with the keeper and just forgot to shoot.
Was she not offside in that one?
No, she wasn't.
Oh,
she
sorry,
forgot to
okay.
shoot.
That was another.
Oh, the one where she tried to dribble the ball into the net. Yes.
And the goalkeeper is like, "Okay, I'm taking it."
Yeah. Okay. Decision making was lacking when she did make it down to the net. Sorry, I mixed that one up with the one where she was offside. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah, so for Nichelle Prince, she was out on a pretty significant injury for a long time, so I don't know if she's still finding her footing a little bit, or what, but it wasn't the most explosive, interesting. I don't think she's adding anything to her highlight reel from this match. I'm not saying like it was terrible, but I also think at least for kind of the first 30, 35 minutes, basically until they scored their goal, France really did dominate so much possession that there wasn't a lot to work with. Conversely, I did really like Jordan Heidema's performance. I think we've been super critical of her on this podcast.
Yeah.
But this was one of my favorite recent performances of hers. I loved her work rate. I love that she was tracking back. I mean, I was not thrilled that she was like closer to Kaylin Sheridan than the French keeper, but I appreciated her willingness to contribute when Canada was getting a little bit overwhelmed early on in the match. I thought she was doing her best to participate. However, she was willing to kind of interchange with Fleming or with one of the wingers to kind of open up space for the teammates. It just felt like a lot more of a free performance from her, and it felt like she wasn't trying to overcomplicate things too much or getting stuck. So although she didn't get on the score sheet or anything like that, I actually found her performance like quite refreshing.
Yeah, I liked Jordan Heineman's performance. So she was playing more of a hybrid role between a
Yeah.
midfielder and a striker, and I really like that. But you know what? Yeah, I've been critical about Michelle Prince. When I say that she didn't take a shot, but you know what? I like the fact that she was really playing using her pace as much as possible to get balls in behind the defense. She did that quite a few times. She offered that option to the midfielders, to the wing backs, which we needed also. So
Yeah.
she did her job. I think she should have scored. That's the only thing. But at the end of the day, she did what she was required to do on the pitch. But at the end of the day, a striker needs to score. So I did understand the reason why she was substituted for Adriana Leon right at the beginning of the second half. Let's talk about those subs, those wingbacks first. We forgot about the wingbacks. The two wingbacks, Andy. Gabrielle Carl first on the left, and then right after on the right, we had Ashley Lawrence. What did you think about their work?
Well, I really liked Ashley Lawrence's work throughout the game. I think she was a threat. She was a constant threat. She was pushing the defense.
Yeah, and she played
Gabrielle
on the
Carl,
left after.
yes, she switched. She
Yeah,
switched,
she
and it
switched.
actually was a really good switch. I think it helped. It helped out a lot. Gabrielle Carr, I think she was. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. She was going up against Elisa de Almeida,
Yeah.
right? Frequently, and it was a good matchup. It was a really good matchup. They were going at it, but I have to say I think she got the better of her throughout the game. But it was a good matchup, but didn't really let her progress. But I really like the work that both of them did defensively. They did.
Yeah.
I think they were solid. They were matching really well with the midfield as well. I just find that last third, the final third to attack, all of the attackers struggled. It was like they did everything fine for the the defensive third and the mid third, and then once they got up, it was like they just couldn't connect that last kick, that last pass to like to have that opportunity. So I think they were a big part of the game, and I think in that moment when we were talking a little bit earlier when Canada really was desperate to get something going, is you saw that the wingbacks were really to the side and on the side and really wanted to spread the field as much as they could, and that's really something that gave Canada a lot of opportunities towards the end. So I really like their work of the wingbacks.
Yeah, I think they were very interesting. Also, the two wingbacks. Let's talk about the subs. But before talking about the subs, it was around the 48th minute or 49th minute. We got a tweet. I saw a tweet from Christine Roger that works at Radio Canada that is right now in Paris. And she said, I'll stick to the facts. Canada needs 2 goals. Lacasse has been destroying everything for 2-3 years. Vian is the best scorer in Italy. They are on the bench. How we've been talking about this for so long here on this pod, and I'm not going to repeat myself again, but I love, that tweet here. And the reason why I'm talking about this, I want to talk about the impact of those subs. First of all, Adrienne Leon coming in on the 46th minutes for Michelle Prince, then Janine Becky coming in for Gabrielle Carl. So that's where the switch happened with Lawrence going on the left and Becky playing as a right wing back. Evelyn Vian coming in for Quinn. And at the end, we had in the 90th minute, we had Julia Grosso coming in for Simia Wujo. Guys, I think that Andy's fans got everything right with every one of those substitutions. Eve, what did you think about the subs?
Yeah, I agree with you. I really liked all of the subs, and I thought all of the subs added something that the Canadian team had been lacking because the first half was largely dominated by France.
Yeah.
So clearly they needed a little more punch, and I think Adrienne Leon has been in excellent form for Canada. So undoubtedly, despite the circumstances of the past week, hopefully she was coming in with great confidence going into this match because she has found the back of the net time and time again. But she also, she has such tricky footwork. I mean, she even tricked herself basically, late in the second half and got the ball stuck between her own feet when she was trying to cut it onto her left foot. So I think she kind of gave the French defenders a little bit more of a problem to think about than Michelle Prince, who is maybe not quite as technical as her. As for Evelyn Vian, obviously we are strong proponents of that player on the show.
She missed a big chance.
She did.
But you know what? She she created that chance also. Like first of all, of course,
Yeah.
the nice pass from Jade Rose, amazing pass from Jade Rose, but the control of Evelyn Vian, I think she lacked a bit of acceleration on that, but that should have been on target. For me, that's unacceptable. But she's been very good. I think that the threat that she brought into the box made France
Step back a bit.
step back and a bit cautious, more cautious when they were approaching, the last third, when Canada was approaching the last third, because they had such a threat in the box. I think she did her job 100%. And yes, she only came in for 10 minutes, but Julia Grosso played an amazing part too. She had a shot on target.
Yeah.
She was really good. And what about Janine Becky? Andy, I want to hear you about Janine Becky that came in as a right wing back. Janine Becky is one of the most talented players of Canada and has been for quite a while. She suffered a very big injury that kept her, out for maybe a year. And now she's coming back playing regularly. And how important was she? The strength that she brought, the resilience that she brought. She came back at one point, I think she did like half the pitch to come back and recuperate and win a ball from the feet of a French attacker. That's how good she was. What did you think about
I just think that the substitutions were made at a time, in my opinion, where I saw that France was taking stuff for granted. They were taking stuff for granted. They were kind of a little bit slower. They were wasting time. They were happy with the tie. And the subs that came in, especially as you mentioned, Janine Becky, they were just in another rhythm. They were ready to kill this game, to beat them, because the hustle, the passes, everything that hadn't worked all game started working the moment they came in. The passes started, the runs, the positioning, everything. And France could not see. It seemed like the whole Canadian team was just going around in circles around them, because everything was working, and it started with that energy that they brought to both Evelyn Vian and Janine Becky. They just had so much energy, so much accuracy, and it completely turned the game around. The subs were done at a right time, and France just woke up with way too little time. But it was absolutely, Hady, I know I'm answering in general the subs, but yes, Becky was the one that set the tone for what they needed that game, and everybody just kind of followed. So when we talk about the captain's armband, that's also something we need, right? Someone that comes in the field and all of a sudden they can flip the field. They can all of a sudden say, you know what, guys, I'm setting the tone. Follow me. We're going to get this, right? So that's just how it felt. Not a lot of talking, not a lot of rah, but just hustle back and forth, get the ball and score a goal. That's it. So
yeah, exactly. And Eve did talk about the leadership in that dressing room, and it shows on the pitch. How many leaders there are in that roster, and leaders that get along together and get along with each other, which is really, really interesting. Guys, 0 points now for Canada, which is very, very weird with 2 wins.
Yes.
It might change, of course. The appeal. I'm pretty sure that they will have to answer the appeal like very soon if an appeal is made. They need to win against Colombia. For me, I'm very cautious about that game, because usually when you win against the number 2 in the world, which is France, on their home turf, you might get a bit too confident. What should the coaching staff do in order to keep those girls focused on winning that third game in order to qualify, Elias?
I think maybe switch up the formation, switch up the players, because this is, yes, a lot of people had really, really good performances against France, but at the end of the day, you're not playing France anymore. You're going to be expecting to have a lot more of the ball. You're expecting to have a lot more offense. I think now you switch up the formation. I think you switch up some of the starters, especially people that are in competition, right? I feel like the back line is the back line, and the back line has been the back line forever. I don't think that's where you switch it up. But the attacking core, where you didn't get much until the substitutes at the hour mark, you switch it up. You reward people that had good cameo performances. You maybe, the people who came off the bench who didn't get as much joy, you save them to come off the bench and maybe use that as a motivator factor to get back in the starting 11. Because at the end of the day, if this team does go forward, the game, and after, if they win against Colombia, their performances against Colombia is going to set the tone, based on, who gets to play in the quarterfinal round. And if they end up being, the third place team, then all of a sudden there's a lot of really good opposition they could play against, because they're playing against first place in the group, and they'll be playing against, the likes of Spain or the likes of the US, and then it's back to the way you played against France. So you need to be aware of who your most trustworthy players are, and you do that by switching the lineup up.
Yeah, interesting. Let's see what Andy Spence is going to do against Colombia on Wednesday. So great games, but guys, when you if you have nothing to do, watch the Olympics. Great games are being played there, and especially with our Canadian national team, that is being really interesting. Feels like in a way they found the secret recipe to make things really interesting in that competition. So hopefully we'll see them go through.
They have momentum, Hadi. Sorry, they have momentum, and I think in a competition like this, in any competition, even the World Cup, momentum is so crucial to progress throughout the competition. We've seen it with countries before that were underdogs that in the World Cup or even in Copa America, whatever it is. Momentum is very important. So when a coach chooses their lineup or chooses what game plan they're going to do for the next game, they got to think about the momentum that they're setting from the moment that whistle blows. You can't hold that team back anymore, because they have momentum. They have the belief in themselves. Today, what I saw from the interviews after the game is that these girls believe in themselves. They believe in their team, and whoever their coach is, because I don't really think they care who their coach is. That's my opinion. They really believe in themselves. They believe in who they can be and what they can accomplish. So momentum is important for them, and leading into the Colombia game.
100% momentum is going to be very important. I think the fact that they have 0 points right now is giving them a bit more, fury, or fueling them in a way, in order to get that third win and qualify. Moving on, we do have a local team here, CF Montreal. We're not going to talk about the game, and about the performances, because it's been like 3 days already, or non-performance. Exactly. Let's talk about the game as a whole. For people that didn't know, CF Montreal played their first game in a Leagues Cup, the 2024 Leagues Cup, and lost in against Orlando 4-1. Guys, we didn't see a change in the starting formation. I thought I would have seen a 4-back, but we didn't. So same formation. Yes, a bit of rotation in the squad. I'll start with you, Andy. Do you feel that Courtois' way is not going through with this group of players?
I don't know, Hadi, because I think it's just he's changed so many players, and the formation has stayed, right? You're right. You're absolutely, his way has stayed. But I don't know if it's that the players are not understanding it because they don't play enough in his formation, or what it is, but it just seems like I constantly see that players are telling other players, hey, you were supposed to be there. Hey, you were supposed to be there. Hey, you're supposed to go after that ball. Hey, so again, I don't know if it's the players that are not understanding it, or that Laurent Courtois needs to change the way he communicates to the players, or something is not being communicated properly by somebody. And just, I'm sure we'll get into it, but just in general, the way we saw the team come out on Friday night was just a flat team. Speaking of momentum, right? There was no momentum. There was the momentum of just losing against Toronto. It was flat. It was no energy, no. Regardless, it just felt like it was people that we're just gonna do this again. Let's just get through this kind of deal. That's how it felt, anyways, in my opinion.
What do you think, Eve?
Oh, it wasn't pretty. I think, people have kind of questioned individual players' motivation on and off throughout the year. And I think not last night, Friday. I'm probably going to say last night like 20 times, and it's just my fault. I think, it was hard to see that impetus that we have seen in this squad historically. It was hard to see the grinta that Montreal tries to make kind of part of their image. Like that seemed to be completely lacking. So a part of me is wondering how much sway Courtois does have over his locker room right now, because it feels like, kind of like Andy said, it's kind of just showing up and going out and, okay, we're going to put 90 minutes on the clock in for 90 minutes and then clock out at the end of the day. But, the emotional investment, it's not resonating like it had been in the past.
Yeah, Elias, you talked to me a bit, off record about that first half, how poor they were in that first half. Honestly, Elias, I don't understand it's what, their 28th game of the season, if you count, Canadian Championship,
Something like
and
that, yeah.
or something like that, 26th or 28th game in the season. Like, you can't really say, they don't know each other very well. You can't really say, you know what, it's the injuries. This should be the peak time for a team that's fighting for the playoffs or fighting in a new competition that is the Leagues Cup. It's a new competition. It doesn't, like, I can't see any fire, and that's so crazy when you compare the women's national team that's living through the most difficult times of their history, and CF Montreal that's starting a new competition that have a way to redeem themselves, and they show up that poorly in the first game. So how do you explain that? Like, Andy said that it's maybe not Courtois' way because he's changing too much the players. Yves is saying that, I don't know, it feels that there's no alignment, he doesn't have maybe the dressing room, there's no grinta, maybe there's a problem in the dressing room. 28 games, man. I don't know.
It's weird because he does have a clearly identifiable style. He's talked about it. It's been attempted to be implemented throughout games. So it's very clear that he has, at the very least, attempted to get his message across. But at the same time, I don't I'm kind of with you. I think everyone's with you a little bit. And it's that what's not clicking. You train together almost every day. You've played, like you said, you've played together for months now. You travel together. There's no way you guys aren't familiar or comfortable with one another. Where's the mental block? Because when you look at it, it feels like a million years ago the team that started the season on the road. It felt like a ragtag group of rebels ready to take on the world, knowing that they were punching well above their weight and still getting results. And how do you take so many steps back? Because the thing is, it's not just steps back in terms of, overall performance and tactics and stuff like that, but individual stuff from the players you used to rely on the most, right? Mathieu Chouinard hasn't played well since he's come back. Samuel Piet's been kind of invisible. Joel Waterman has been okay with the ball, but defending, he hasn't looked like the same Joel Waterman that left to Copa America. You have the attack, which is looking toothless. And on top of all of that, they actually had a bunch of chances in the second half against Orlando. Not enough to make a comeback, but definitely enough to put themselves in a position where they're in a good spot in terms of goal differential. And we know how important goal differential is
He missed a penalty too, right?
You missed a penalty. And it was look, at the end of the day, if you look at the replay, maybe the penalty should have been retaken because Calendar was off his line. But at that point, you're splitting hairs because at one, he was maybe a couple inches off his line, and two, he saved it with like his whole hand. It's not like he put a fingertip. So that penalty was getting saved regardless.
It was a great save though.
It was a very good save, but you can't fault him being off the line for missing the penalty because it was negligible. In the eyes of the laws, maybe, but at that point, who cares? All these things that I'm watching, they defy logic. And we joked last week about how maybe they just need a hug or a sports psychologist or something. But I genuinely think at this point they need like couples therapy, where you need somebody to get in there and just help them talk to each other. Because it looks like everyone.
What do you think the problem is? Do you think the problem is between the players themselves? Or do you think that it's more than that? Because let's be frank here. I don't think it's between the players. I think it's between the players and higher management. It's between it's because of the dysfunctional organization that is the club right now.
But the thing is,
that's the problem.
They were doing better when everything was dysfunctional. They even had a scandal in weeks, and they're playing some of the worst soccer I've seen all year.
Wow!
But you know what's one of the things that at the beginning of the season was very different. That Laurent Courtois said that he made it a point so that this was like the team spent a lot of time together with each other, so they could build some kind of chemistry. They were almost like 24/7 with one another trying to. And then now today, the CF Montreal we're looking at today feels like. Because I was rewatching the game and I was just like, "What?"
You rewatched that?
Yeah,
oh,
that kind of I'm a psychopath. But I was rewatching. I was like, "What player could it be? What is there an individual performance? It's not. It's a collective effort. It's a collective effort to lose, and it's incredible because we talk about couples therapy, whatever. No, what they need is a players only meeting. Coaches get out, and you guys talk to each other. What the F is happening right now? What are we doing? Because the 4 goals they score, if you guys watch, you don't have to, but if you watch the 4 goals, just look at the body language of the CF Montreal players. There was a time when they actually were ashamed of scoring a goal. They were mad to have a goal scored on them. But now you see their body language after they get, and it's not, hey, you were supposed to. They're like, here we go again. They're not even looking at each other. They're like, let's just go back. And that's the problem.
But at that point, who do you point your finger at? Because at one point, there is someone that can change the dynamic, right? Who is it?
Is the leadership.
Which leadership? Like the players?
The players' leadership. The player leadership, like
it's not the coach. It's not the coaching staff.
The coach can't be on the field. The coach can motivate throughout practice. They can try their best to try to talk, get a one-on-one, really understand the player, which based on what we're hearing is that Laurent Courtois is very good at talking to a player, communicating, but it's once you're in the field and you need somebody to live the spirits of the team. Who's doing it? Is it Saint-Pierre? Is it Mathieu Chouanière? Who's the leader? Is it Victor Wanyama? Who's talking to them?
I hope it's not Mathieu Chouanière. He's really pissed off and he doesn't want to be here anymore. So
who's talking to them? If everybody's just like, here we go again. So it's the only time that we actually got excited was when the subs came in, the Wid and Tom Pierce. And I don't know why I got this crazy idea that the only reason why they actually were performing still at a high level was because they're new here. They don't understand the whole culture, that was different. We lost
Elias. He may come back. He lives in the West Island. God knows he probably lost power spontaneously.
He will be back. Anyways, he just sent us a message saying that he lost power.
I called it.
You did. You did. No, but like it's very interesting. Maybe a players meeting, I understand, but again, who's going to lead that player meeting? And let's talk. You know what? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Okay. To you, Eve, because you didn't answer a question yet on this topic. Laurent Courtois said a couple of times in the press conferences that some players are not really focused on the task to be done and part of the vision. And Gabriel Gervais said that he had individual talks with each one of the players and everything. And then you see the starting 11 of Laurent Courtois. if you're starting 11, if the starting 11 that he chose is composed of those players that are not in the vision, that's normal that they lose, right? So logically, this starting 11 should be made of players that are part of the plan, right? Am I wrong? Or
if you've got 11 players who fit the positions, who are part of the plan and who are motivated.
but you had like what was the problem with Samuel Piet?
Good question.
Exactly. So what was the problem with I don't know. You had Raheem Edwards. He was he wasn't even on the bench.
Nope. Truly a question I can't
George
answer.
Exactly.
No, it's beyond my understanding.
Yeah, but like, that's what I'm trying to explain. If you're choosing a starting 11 and you want to win that game, you got to make sure that you have players that are going to be able to produce whatever you want them to produce on the pitch.
And players who are motivated, players who are engaged, players who are tactically aware. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
So when you look at that starting 11, all those players should be part of the vision of Laurent Courtois next year. So you have Gabriel Corbo, Joel Waterman, Alvarez.
Stop. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there is time and place for rotation. You have a Friday to a Tuesday turnaround, and this is a road game. So I can understand not having exactly 11 of your number one choices for the future of this club starting. So there is a degree of flexibility, I'll say, within that. But yeah, I mean, the majority of your team certainly should fit within your vision. And obviously, you can't necessarily turn over a team. They did just trade Mason Toy to the Portland Timbers, and I think we can all agree he wasn't part of the vision going forward, right? So I kind of think singling out a road match on a Friday night in Orlando as why is he picking these players is not necessarily the best representation of choosing players who are not part of the long-term goal.
But if you're not choosing the players that are, if you're choosing players that are not part of the long-term goal, that means that you don't really care about this competition, right? Well, that's what I don't understand is why would you put that starting 11 on the pitch if they're not a part of your vision? I don't get it. Yes, you have to do a rotation, unless you have 15 of your 30 players that are not part of your vision. That's something else. If that's the problem,
a bigger problem. Yeah,
that's a very big problem. Yeah. I don't think that we're that far, right?
I mean, God only knows what the vision's going to become now in the next era. We don't really know, right? So hard to say because we're in between sporting directors, or we're not going to have one. I don't know. I truly don't know. Do any of us know? I don't think so. So I don't know. Anyway, the gist is I'll be very curious to see what the lineup is on Tuesday evening because you would expect, I think, for a home match to be your prototypical starting 11 and your starting 11 who you could most rely on. So I think that one would be a lot more telling than this specific match.
I don't think more than 8 of these players are going to be here next year and are part of Laurent Courtois' future, those that were lined up. I really don't. Mathieu Chanier wants out. Gabriel Corbo, is he really a part of the plan for the future? He's been benched all these past games. Victor Wanyama.
He's been having a lot of starts recently.
Yeah, but does that mean anything?
I don't know.
That was exactly. It's so unclear. It's so unclear as to what I don't know. It didn't feel. It definitely. I mean, I can understand if we lost 1-0 against Orlando, but we gave it all, and maybe it was an own goal, but we really gave it all. 4-1, and to show no fight at the beginning, we finally got. Is it the first game we get to see Matias Kokaro play 90 minutes? It's the first game, right? Because he's always gotten injured or subbed out.
I can't remember if he did early in the season or not.
Yeah, early in the season?
I feel like he always got injured whenever he played. But anyways, the point is, we really got to see, and he finally put the. I think you were the one saying that we've never had Joseph and Matias Kokaro play up front in a long time since they've been injured, right? And now we finally got to see them, right? See them experiment with that. And the funny part is, you would have thought it was really good combination, but at some point, you actually see them have a disagreement, and that goes again with how heavily rotated this attack is, and how not really sure if they're fully understanding what is happening with this formation, or what Laurent Courtois was.
Now to judge a partnership, you need to see a bigger cameo than 45 minutes, right? So
yeah.
So it's hard to judge their partnership. I would love to see them more often playing together, and I still think that's the best duo that we have up front, and I would love to see Opoku with them. And I talked about this quite a few times. But
what's going on with Opoku?
One thing that I don't like is the changes in the back. I really didn't understand that. I thought that we found our back three, and please do not tell me about rotation in the back three. The back three don't need to rotate. You can play every three days and still be pretty fresh. You don't really run much, right? When you're in a back three. So, that change I didn't understand either. So, what is he trying to do? Can someone explain what is Laurent Courtois trying to do?
I don't know.
Logically, we can't really explain. We can't. Yeah, we can't. No. We don't know what's happening inside that head of his. But I don't know.
Unless on his mind, he's using this opportunity to give everybody the minutes they want.
You think?
Sorry, cut you off there.
No, I wasn't really going to say anything. I mean, at the end of the day, we can sit here and hypothesize all night if we want to. Certain players, I think there could be talk of their marketability. There might be something in a contract that guarantees a certain number of minutes. There could be factors like that. And perhaps it is, in fact, just given the goal that the club outlined at the start, and they've said, okay, well, we've gone and bottled Canadian Championship. We know that what our ultimate goal was, doesn't look like we're going to have to be picky and choosy because we're not finding success much of anywhere. So maybe they are deprioritizing the Leagues Cup. I don't know. Those are a couple of theories that cross my mind.
Tuesday will be telling.
I agree with you, but if they're not prioritizing the Leagues Cup, why are we not trying something new, something different? Like a 4-3-3. We talked about it. Honestly, in my opinion, with the little that I know, of course, I'm not in the dressing room. I don't know. I'm not in their heads. It just doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense, and I'm trying to make sense out of it, and I can't. I don't know what to say anymore. But
I think Tuesday is going to be telling. Tuesday is going to be very telling what they do. The rotation wise, do they even want to win? Because if they win, they move on, right? They have another game.
I think it might depend because it's the first two out of each group. No.
Yeah, it's the first.
I don't fully get that. I don't fully get that competition, so I don't.
I will tell you.
There's
guys,
penalties and overtime.
I think I'm probably the least.
I will tell you guys, and I'm looking at this, and yeah, it should be the first two that qualify. Do we know what happened with the other game?
Nothing happened. Isn't it just a group of three?
Yeah, but you should have a game between Orlando and San Luis, no?
They haven't played yet.
Yeah, exactly. So they're playing. Yeah. Okay, so they're playing soon.
They'll play at the weekend, I believe.
Exactly.
So the following weekend, yeah.
So until we know the result of that game, we're not going to know if
unless Montreal loses.
Unless we lose.
Yeah, unless we lose.
I haven't really looked into how good San Luis is, but
I don't know.
But
I don't think it's important right now. No. I don't think it's important. We don't have what it takes to go all the way. So Leagues Cup is not important. No. What we need to know is what is the vision.
Yeah.
And that was my question and for you guys, because he's not trying a new tactical formation. He's putting some players, he's trying some players in different positions. Okay. But you're 28 games in. Like you tried everything already.
Mhm.
So what's the goal? I don't understand. How important is this game against St. Louis right now? Because if they lose, no game for at least 3 weeks.
Yep.
Is it
He's not on
important
the
to
ball.
keep on playing, or is it a good thing to get more time in order to work on tactical situations, to give a few days off for the players? How important is that game against St. Louis at home and Stade Saputo, Andy?
I think it's important for the players that are seeking minutes. That's what I think it's important for more than anything. And there are players that are seeking minutes, and this is an extremely, because if they lose, like you said, 3 weeks off, and when they come back, I am more than convinced that Laurent Courtois and staff are going to pick their lineup that they want to win out with. They're not going to try to test out anything once they come back. But in this competition, if they really don't care about if they win or lose, then they need to test. If we're not going to test out formations like they did on like they showed us on Friday, then they're definitely going to have to test out, at least allow these players that need minutes. So we are going to have to see more Wanyama. We are probably going to see more Gabriela Corbo, and we're going to see other players that we don't see that often. The Opoku situation, I do not understand. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I don't know if it's and also Yankov. I don't know if he's injured or just in the doghouse. I have no idea what's going on with that situation. So these would be the kind of games where you want to see Yankov play, because he hasn't had too many minutes, and hopefully get used to the style of play of the MLS or a competition. Just get playing minutes, and hopefully also we get a good sample of the new players that they just brought in this competition. So
Yeah. What did you guys think about Bugay and Pierce?
I like him.
I fell asleep actually by the time they had entered the match. So yeah.
Okay, Andy.
I like them. It's been good to have Elias, but yeah, I like them. I think again they bring a different profile than what we've seen on the left and on the right. I don't know again if it's the fact that they're new and they're fresh and they don't fully know everything that's been going on in the kind of locker room that there is right now, but they seem like they brought a different energy, and more than anything, they were unafraid to cross the ball. Something we haven't seen. We keep seeing passes being around the box, the ball being moved around the box, but we don't see crosses being done anymore. It's like they're afraid to cross. So you just saw them constantly giving chances to crossing. So I like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I think it's a small cameo to get to say whatever on them. But yeah, I agree with you, Angie, that they look promising, but you never know how they're gonna evolve with everything that's going on. So we'll see what's gonna happen on Tuesday. Big game at Stade Saputo. Big game because it's always a big game against the Mexican teams at home. So can't wait to see that. It's gonna be a great atmosphere. A lot of Mexican fans as usual.
Yeah.
Eve, you're okay?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good.
My four-legged friend is just chilling.
So I think this is gonna wrap up the show for tonight. Eve, thanks a lot for being here. Andy, same. Thank you, Elias, wherever you are. Thank you guys for being here with us, for listening to us again and again and again, weekly and week in, week out. As you guys know, and we always say this product is always going to be free. We're going to keep that podcast free because that's what we want. In case you want to help us grow the product, as you can see, guys, we have paid in order for Twitter to have a Twitter verified account, just so we can broadcast our podcast on Twitter from now on. So that's thanks to all our Patreons. So if you want to help us grow the product, get even better, show more stuff, invest a bit more, feel free to join our Patreon group. That's it for tonight. See you next week for episode 189 of The Ball is Wrong.